of ISRO. I'm joined in by Dr. Madhavan Nair. Dr. Nair, thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure for us to have you on this historic day in India's space journey. Firstly, what does launching India's first private orbital rocket mean to you personally, especially standing on the shoulders of visionaries like Vikram Sarabhai and APJ Abdul Kalam?
Well, certainly it's a very significant achievement as far as Indian private sector is concerned. And the Skyroot has boldly taken up this challenge of making a full-fledged launch vehicle and orbiting the satellites on its own. In fact, it's only last few years they have been working on this with a concerted effort, and they have assembled a young team, very enthusiastic and dynamic team, and of course funding coming from various private sources. With that, they have absorbed the technology very precisely, and were able to successfully make this launch vehicle and make it orbit a set of satellites on its first attempt itself. That's really a remarkable achievement as far as this startup is concerned, and my heartiest congratulations to the entire team. So this is perhaps a good beginning for the opening up of private sector participation in the space research in the country.
Right, Dr. Nair, now India's private space sector is growing rapidly and it's all supported by ISRO. What does this success mean to the entire ecosystem, young engineers? You know, Pawan was just talking about how the average age of the scientists there is just 28, and India's goal overall of becoming a multi-billion-dollar space economy.
Well, certainly the foundation for that is laid by the Indian Space Research Organization. It has built the small rockets, almost similar to what the Skyroot, the SLV-3 in 1980, with Dr. Abdul Kalam did the team.
Yeah.
And perhaps that also was a young team like this. We were all in our 30s, below 30 years age group at the time, and it was so thrilling. And Skyroot team must be feeling the same excitement at this moment. From there, we have come a long way. From 40 kilogram satellites into orbit. Today, we can orbit something like 10 tons of payload into orbit with the GSLV Mark III. So there is a firm foundation as far as the space rockets are concerned. Now, the future challenges are very many. The human space flight is very much in orbit, and maybe within the next couple of years, we are going to achieve the target. After that, there is going to be the space station. Indian space station to be in orbit by 30s, and perhaps the human landing on the moon and return before 2040. This is something which is an ambitious goal set by our Prime Minister, and there is a lot of opportunities for the space community in this country.
Right.
It is the government alone cannot fill the gap. So here only the private players have to take. They have to think much bigger than what they have been doing today. They have to participate in the semi-cryogenic program, the huge rockets which are required for going to the moon. See, we are talking about enhancing the payload capacity from 10 tons to something like 100 tons over the next 10 years. So that requires a huge boosters to be developed and things like that. So here, a complementary role by the private participation or a venture with the public-private participation, ISRO and the private industries together will be the good model for the country to take on. There's a huge opportunity and challenge waiting before us in the space sector, and this is the time to give a really kickstart to the whole event.
Absolutely. Now, talking about today's launch, specifically carbon composite structures, 3D printed components, flex nozzles were major innovations that we saw. What role did they play in today's success?
Well, certainly, I think the Skyroot team was very adventurous. They have absorbed all the modern technology like this, as you said, the carbon composite and the 3D printing, etc. That's okay, that's a good beginning, and they have demonstrated their capability. Now, I am saying they should not be just satisfied with the small rocket. They should think of how they can contribute for the 100-ton payload capacity That's a huge booster. The next generation launch vehicle system ISRO is planning. How to join hands with ISRO and the private sector to achieve this goal. That should be their dream.
Absolutely. I'm sure they're inspired by what you are saying and they would be hearing you through our channel. But overall, Doctor, how would you rate the significance of this event on a scale of India's space achievements? And what should we be watching for in the next few private missions?
It clearly shows the Indian brains and hands are far better than what you can get anywhere in the world. If you set a goal, work for it, you will achieve. It's a good role model for the youth in the country, and it is not only in the space sector. Any activity which is required, the youth power, the India is prepared for it. And this is a good example. And I have no words to express my appreciation for the youngsters who have really mastered this high technology within a very short time and demonstrated the capability.
Right, Dr. Nair, now this also follows the successful Vikram S suborbital launch that we saw in 2022. How did that lesson really contribute to today's orbital success? And not just that, but the private missions that we've seen around the world earlier.
Well, I think, as I told earlier, there is no point in reinventing the wheel. See, the 500 kilogram vehicle, the ISRO has launched successfully in somewhere about 2020 or so. And there is no point in replicating those kind of capacity. We have to leapfrog from where we are today. We have a 10-ton capacity today. How to make it 20 ton or 50 ton or 100 ton? That should be the objective of these new companies.
Right. All right, Dr. Nair, thank you very much for speaking to us and for giving us your time here on NewsX. And